To Republican former Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott and what he makes of all of that. Predictable politics, I guess, Senator, but, you know, when I look around at some of the other news channels, as I have to do because that's the kind of guy I am, they are all over it. It is nonstop coverage of this book and its implications. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I don't think these are typical times in many respects, but I don't think a disagreement between the president and Bannon will have a great impact on the legislation that the Congress needs to pass. There's nothing that focused the attention of a member more than the threat of an election, and one that could be hotly contested. So I'm looking for the Republicans to pull together in the Congress and have a good year.
Do you think the effect of the tax cut will be felt in enough time to save Republicans from losing the House?
Well, obviously, they wound up the end of the year, 2017, on a positive note, passed a great tax cut bill that and tax reform included as a part of it. We haven't done that since 1986, I guess it was, when I was still in the House. It was a very positive thing. The members felt good about that. They got through the continuing resolution to keep the government operating without the threat of a shutdown. But now they've got work they've got to do to finish up last year's work, quite frankly, on the budget matters. But tax cut alone at the end of the year is not enough. They need to do more. Yeah. And the place to go is infrastructure. We need it. Lanes, planes, trains, ports, harbors, water, and sewer. We need it all over the country.
A lot of your conservative friends argue we don't have the money for that. The Freedom Caucus and others are saying we're not going to go deeper into debt to get that. What do you say?
Well, I say they are going to have to come up with some ways to pay for it, and they may have to show a little courage. Look, I voted for a gas tax increase at the request of Ronald Reagan. His Secretary of Transportation, Drew Lewis, called me when I was whipping the House and said, we've got to pass some gas tax legislation to help pay for infrastructure and for roads. We did it. Not one member lost because of that. You have to come up with ways to pay for it. You have to deal with things like mileage tax, because now with more and more electric vehicles on the roads, you know, they've got to have a way to pay for the cost of the roads, too. You need to look at everything. You know, is there something more you can do with repatriation?
But is there the appetite to do that, you think? I mean, because you're right, both sides have to think like that. But both sides do not think like that.
Well, but, you know, start thinking about it on a local basis. One of the points I make is that we got water and sewer systems all over this country that are literally collapsing. Right. In Jackson, Mississippi, they have a citywide boil water today. Iron in the water is not unique to Flint, Michigan. So when you're talking about water and sewer systems that affect individual members, districts, and states, when you're talking about the need for highways or improvement in our ports, there's a tremendous need there. One of the mistakes they made, and you won't agree with me maybe on this, but if they had earmarks, it would help a little bit, so you could make sure that some of those important projects in a member's district or a state are properly addressed and not just left to some bureaucrat at the Department of Transportation. But I do think that infrastructure is a place where it can be bipartisan.
Yeah,
it'll take an effort.
There is precedent for it, and you were there in the days when they used to do that. But I do want to get your sense of this president and his popularity, despite the surge in the market, despite the continuing improvement in the economy. And I'm just amazed because normally bread and butter issues like that come to the fore. If they're great, it helps the president. If they're not so great, it doesn't help the president. History seems to indicate that. But not with him yet. Why is that?
Well, partially because quite often other side issues get in the way, or he does a tweet that people say, oh, was that a good idea? Right. Now, I know that he uses that to get over the head of the so-called old line media, and you know who I'm talking about, everybody but Fox, quite frankly. So it's a tool, but you have to be careful how you use that tool. And people are worried about what's happening internationally. Are we doing the right thing on trade? You know, the turmoil causes people to worry. But if they look at what's happening, what he's done with the court systems, what he's doing with rolling back all these outrageous regulations, and there are many more that need to be rolled back, plus the tax bill, if they could do infrastructure, if they can do what we need for the defense of our country, then I think they'd have a positive message. That's one thing that worries me. What is our theme as Republicans? What is our message? And who are our best messengers? I think we need more Republicans, and particularly senators and leadership, to get out there in the media, including, you know, the fake media, and tell their story of what they're trying to do.
I think that's the Republicans' biggest weakness, though, Trent. I think there's an inability, and this is not a disparagement, I said the same a lot in politics over the years, that no one can crystallize and say in a couple of sentences a selling pitch. I thought JFK was very good at it. I thought Ronald Reagan was very good at it. I thought Bill Clinton was quite effective at it. But so far with this president and this Congress, not nearly as much. I think they have the potential there, but they get so convoluted and in the weeds and talking about some of the Byzantine aspects of this tax cut that I think they lose people.
Well, you have to sit down and talk about it. What is it American people want? People are worried about their jobs. They're worried about the cost of living. And you need a succinct message that explains to them what you're going to do to help them with their cost of living and their economic needs. It's still what it's all about, is jobs and the economy. But you need something very succinct. And then you need to take the good men and women that we've got. We've got good messengers, but we need to get them out there more with a succinct message explaining why the tax cuts and the infrastructure bill is going to be good for America and help them with their cost of living and their future needs. It can be done, but you have to work at it.
Yeah, no, it's all about selling it after you approve it. So I definitely see the wisdom in that. You know, Senator, you were there again. I don't know if you were there for the first wave of the Reagan tax cuts, but the problem. Okay, I apologize. The problem and the rap against that were they were sort of staged in. They were not all immediate, and as a result, and it's typical what happens in a president's first term. In the midterm, Republicans lost a lot of seats. Now, the benefit we're told of this tax, whether people like it or not, is there's none of that. It's all immediate, all happens pronto. And that is going to have an earlier than thought beneficial effect for Republicans at the polls. Do you buy that?
I do buy that. I think it is. They made the right decision to not delay it, to have it go ahead and go into effect. People will begin feeling it pretty quickly. And manufacturing and corporate America is already saying, yes, this is going to be good for us and our ability to expand and give bonuses to their workers. So I think they will see it and feel it quicker. And that will have an impact on the people's thinking, I believe, in a positive way.
I'd be remiss that very, very quickly we're getting a bulletin in from AP, Senator, that the administration wants to expand offshore drilling, including in the Pacific Ocean. It'll be the first time in decades. It shouldn't surprise a lot of folks. The president has telegraphed an interest in doing this. He's talking about the same in Alaska. That was part of the deal to expand and open up ANWR for energy drilling and the like. What do you make of this?
Absolutely the right thing to do. My attitude has always been drill wherever the oil and gas is. I'm from the Gulf of Mexico. I used to sit on my front porch before my home was destroyed by Katrina and look out to the east, and I could see oil wells being flared in Mississippi and across the line in Alabama. It can be done safely. Are there things you need to do to make sure it's done safely? Yes. But we should drill in the Atlantic, in the Arctic, in the Pacific, wherever it is, and make America energy independent, which, you know, America is this year going to become the largest producing oil and gas country in the world. Good. Yeah. And let's go for everything. I'm for alternative fuels. I support the concept of solar and biofuel. Let's do it all. That's the uniqueness of America. We don't have to just say, okay, we're going to do just coal or just nuclear. We're going to do everything in the energy field. It'll create jobs. It'll grow the economy. And I think the president made absolutely the right decision. See, he's making most of the right decisions. He's just not messaging them in the way that would be helpful to him and helpful to Congress in getting things done that he really wants to do.
We shall see. Trent Lott, good seeing you, my friend. Have a happy New Year.